All right, what's up? Today we're here with Leana Deeb, who we have been working for a number of years and also got Saad with me. So I thought I'll bring these guys and have a conversation about everything that we do and more about Leana and her story. And just because she's had this crazy growth, if I remember, I think it was like 50,000 followers. And then you grew to like 10 million plus. I was looking at the data earlier. I think it's in about like 14 months or something. What was that like?
The growth, it was honestly very just quick. I think it felt like it came out of nowhere. It kind of did.
To wake up and just like refresh and be like, yo, it keeps going up.
You were doing that. I remember doing that myself.
I rember you used to send me
I used to
screenshots. You'd be
literally-
like, it's gone up again.
Every time I'd click on your audience, I'd scroll it. And as soon as I did that, it was like another 1,000 people.
Yeah, no, it was definitely like
100,000 people.
Yeah, literally.
yeah, no, I didn't really know how to take it all in, I guess. I was kind of confused. But then it was like one specific edit that I had tried. And ever since then, I was just like, okay, this is a thing that works. And I just kept doing it. And
What was that? But that just means obviously it's the content, right? The way you bring
Yeah.
the content out. So what did you notice that was working?
the thing that I noticed was probably showing pain and sweat in the gym. I feel like fitness was kind of pretty back then. You didn't really see.
People were trying to show polished fitness. Because the more polished you are, the better you essentially came across or looked. But you were trying to show that like what I actually go through when I'm training.
Yeah.
And
I don't think I was intentionally thinking that. I kind of was just like, I'm going to post me sweating, the hard reps in the gym, and show people that like this is what fitness really is. It's not about like the prettiness of it. And I think people resonated with that, I don't know, through my content. And also I feel like music was probably a big factor in it.
Definitely.
For sure.
You definitely broke artists. For sure. People like
Kegel.
Kegel, that was it.
Yeah. So it was like a movie, basically. And then obviously a transformation with like being very underweight in the gym and then showing that journey through like getting a better physique.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel like I was also very vulnerable and open with my audience. Ever since then, it just took off, stayed consistent, literally never stopped.
Yeah, I guess look, we've been in this industry for like 8, 9 years now. And I guess it's probably the fastest growth we've ever seen just in general, like, you know, in that time span. So I can't even imagine what that would be like going through it every day. I guess while you were going through that, was it the case of then every day wake up and let me post like a similar thing again because it works? Like, you know, because it would have been like some point, like, do I do other things? Do I do this? Do I keep doing what works? Because a lot of creators get stuck in that, right? Like something is working, but then also it may stop working, or do you keep doing that? Like, how did you like find that? Because literally going through it day by day. And I remember you were quite consistent, right? I feel like you used to post like daily, was it?
It was
Like a
daily,
long period of
twice,
time?
it was
More
like
than-
2 to 3 times on TikTok.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
one
3 to 4
on
times a day.
Instagram.
Cross-platform.
Yeah. Instagram was my place where I constantly gave value. I feel like TikTok as well, but TikTok was more of like the short, quick, motivational type of cuts. And then Instagram was like my home base, I guess you could say, where I connected and built my audience. And I think the main thing that worked for me was probably fitness and food. I think I like niched down just to that, but I also did show things like getting dressed up here and there, but my main thing was like fitness, food, and it was every single day. It was like a new workout every single day. I think that was the main thing that I stuck to.
Were you ever like analytical in your approach, or were you the type to like look at the numbers like per post or per reel, and you know, like if that's today it's like shares and saves and stuff? Were you looking at it at that level?
I don't even think I was looking at it at that level because
Okay.
it was going so fast that I didn't want it to stop. So I didn't even get caught up in the numbers. There were some posts that wouldn't do as well, but I just like continued to keep doing it. I know Saad would probably focus more on the numbers than
Yeah,
me.
definitely.
I was just focused completely on the content. And I think probably now creators get so consumed by the numbers and everything that they shouldn't always worry about that, which even now, I mean, obviously having that super insane growth and then transitioning into like a more slower build, obviously, not because I'm covered, but like it wasn't the same back then when I was showing my body basically. And now I tend to fixate more on numbers. I mean, I've stopped recently because I was just like, let me just stop fixating on numbers. And that's when my content starts to do the best, is whenever I stop looking and stop thinking about, is this edit or is this video going to do well? I think about it more of like, is my audience going to love watching this piece of content? Like, do I actually love watching this? And so I think, yeah, not fixating on the numbers, and I just fell in love with the content.
I guess it's quite normal though. So if something is working, you should do it as much as you possibly can.
Right.
We had that in our business when we started working with fitness creators. It was working, so like I'm gonna keep working with fitness creators till like, okay, now we need to slow down and actually think of what's the right thing for us to work with. And then you start to transition. It's almost a similar thing, you know, like, so now, yeah, it is more important about what you're saying and how you're saying it versus just the numbers. In the early days, was there a time that you were like, this is now working? Like, do you remember, like, there was an inflection point where you're like, I am now a creator, or this is what I want to do, this is my thing now? Is there a time that you remember that? Because a lot of people generally, right, because you start creating content, it starts to work, but then you think, okay, this is actually what I want to do. And, you know, essentially it's going to how I'm going to essentially become an entrepreneur. I'm going to make money. This is going to be my thing. Do you remember that, like, when that happened?
I feel like you can touch more on this one. I just remember in November, like 2021, whenever I signed to you, I was in debt for like
Yeah,
three
I'd say
to
when you
6
started earning
months.
money is when the brand deals.
No, before even the brand deals.
No, but when you like, because we were refusing brand deals for a long time, because Leana was very set. We were internally very set on the right brands for her, because every single brand wanted to work with Leana. Every brand in fitness, nutrition, lots of lifestyle brands, everyone. But it was always, her partnerships had to be authentic, had to be organic. We wanted to work with brands that she was using even before she was who she was, because that's her whole, you know, she's been herself from the very beginning. So I feel like you knew this was for you, but I think it starts to hit home when your dream brands are coming to you saying, you know.
I guess, obviously, being that we work together, knowing stuff, I guess, I know you've obviously, everyone has like their own fears as you go through like your journey. Like, what's been like the standard thing for you that you've had to like overcome? Because everyone that this happens to, and I call it that because it happens out of nowhere almost, that, you know, your content starts to have an impact on people start to follow, then on that so much other fears come. Obviously you grew really fast, but then obviously there would have been where it tapered off, and just, there must be lots of things. But yeah, what would you say?
I think the biggest fear is like falling off. I think that's probably anyone's like fear once you've like made it to the top. Obviously, not being at the top, it's like you like hate that feeling. It's like a deep.
Did you ever
feeling
try
too.
to find like the next content type or something else? Once you saw that, I guess that thing is no longer like the thing.
I mean, I think because I was so used to music, just showing my body on social media, my hair, everything, to then completely deleting everything and just being fully covered, and now speaking about like, you know, confidence from within and coverage and stuff, which is what the mission that I'm on now. But in that transition, I was like, I felt like maybe this is not for me anymore. I contemplated doing content creation because things weren't going as fast. But I think that's like the whole part about like everything coming, so like success coming quickly, and then like you can lose it even quicker is just so scary. And I think that still is my biggest fear. So what else I don't know what else is the biggest fear.
I think that's pretty on the money. I think you can't cope with not being at the top. And anytime you feel like you're not doing what you know you need to be doing, you just, that's where it starts to settle in.
It's a great quality to have, because that means you're identifying what needs to be done or where you want to be. And then you're like figuring out how to get that feeling or get there. I guess obviously, I don't know, how do you define, I guess, this change that you've gone through? You know, like what prompted you to, I guess, take more of a, I don't know, focus on faith, let's say, because you're born Muslim, right?
Yeah, but I'd never really accepted the religion.
I guess so. Was there? Yeah, I guess what led to you, I guess, learning more about it and trying to practice it more?
It was actually Saud. He mentioned zakat, which is charity in Islam. Yeah, you know, and I then was like, okay, what exactly is zakat? So I started looking into it, and I'm a very all-in person, and I loved already like giving. I love giving. I love helping people. But when I knew that zakat is like a very big pillar, I just started to become more interested in what this religion actually is, because growing up in a household where my mom is like a Catholic revert and my dad of the Islamic faith, but it wasn't pushed onto me. My dad was always, you know, we learned the prayers growing up, but I never knew what they actually meant. And I guess I just started learning about it, started reading so many books, listening to podcasts. And I also just felt like a deep sense of gratitude from the creator of the world, I guess you could say, for giving me all that success so quickly that I wanted to just like show appreciation for it, I guess. And I found Islam, started learning about it, and I knew that the next step of getting closer to God is by putting on the hijab and covering up. But I obviously had to educate myself for like 1 to 2 years of the meaning behind the hijab, because I used to think women were oppressed and everything like that, and which was very ignorant of me at the time. But yeah, I kind of just learned and went all in and deleted everything.
No,
And yeah, put it on.
honestly, it's super impressive. Obviously, I've never seen anyone do that or have the strength to do that, because obviously it meant massive risk to everything you have built, the audience, the money, everything to do that. I still remember when we would, when it was happening and we were talking about it, it was so hard to understand what's going on. Because like trying to understand like where is it coming from, right? Like because it could be negative or positive to be like why someone does something. How did you feel about yourself at that time? Or was there a moment where Leana was like, I'm doing this?
Yeah. There's always a moment where Liana's doing something. There's always it's very irregular thing where there'll be a shocking phone call. So that's been the last since day one. But she's herself, so you just roll with it. That's the best thing about her as well, is that she's always herself and no one else, right? That's what makes this journey so exciting. But at the time you was in Dubai.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she was here. She was here, and it was March 2023. You came for Ramadan, and you wanted to test out the hijab in a place where you would not feel judged, right? So then she put it on, and then she called me and said, I put the hijab on and I'm not taking it off. And it was like just one of those moments. But like always, like I never worry with her. Like I never worry because I know she's, people are going to always love what she does and for her for always being herself. And I feel there's always going to be a market for people that are just always themselves. So I was not worried, but it was a time to really evaluate what the next steps are. She has big endorsements. She has a community built, an app. All these people that were bought into essentially somebody different, right? Because it's a full change. So we now need to navigate through that world, but it was not a problem at all. As long as she was comfortable in her skin and happy and, then it was nothing. It was all support all the way. That's how it's always been.
And I guess what was the practical steps? So I remember, I guess, decided to then delete your content. Like, what did you go through, how long before you made it public and the rest of it? I guess, what was that journey?
So I started off by communicating to my audience. I took them through the journey of practicing faith and telling them that like learning about religion and stuff. So they kind of were on the journey with me. But I went from shorts to only leggings, and then sports bras to only crop tops. And that was still modest for me at the time. And then crop tops to only like my stomach being covered. And I think that was the hardest thing for me because like, I guess my stomach was my selling point. Like, yeah, I mean, but that was whenever people were like, oh, she's fully covered now. I then told my audience that I'm going to remove every single piece of content that is showing my skin. My hair was still showing at the time. And then,
That was the first step I remember now. Yeah, it was that before the
Yeah, but I just want to say that I woke up to your content being deleted. It was very planned. We were going to do this the right way, but then I woke up and the content was gone. So it was planned, but that bit was like, because when Leana gets that thing inside, it's happening. It just, at that point, it doesn't matter how, where the strategy, it's just happening.
I remember you woke up with like extreme anxiety.
No, yeah, 100%. Because I was like, "Where's your content gone?" Like, I was. That was stressful. Though. Of course it was.
I think
all her content
you were probably
gone.
worried about like brands.
No, but I hadn't had those meetings yet. I hadn't had the conversations yet that I was due to
It was
have.
sudden. I remember that day. It was sudden.
That was tough.
What did you think about it?
From my point of view, I remember when you were like going through the like, I'm covering up slowly, and at that point, honestly, it felt like, are you like being serious about it, or is it just like, because if you like being more modest, is like just covering your stomach isn't really that, So like when I was looking from the outside, and I was speaking to Sada about it, I was like, how serious is she? She's like, no, she's doing this, and I was like, okay. So initially it was naturally you just question like, because I see it all the time, right? Someone tries to do something on social media, even with our clients, they say they want to do something, they don't really like follow through. At some point they'll be like, no. So I guess that was the initial thing. But I guess on the content is when it was, oh wow, like you're really doing this. Which I don't know when you put on the hijab in that. I think that was a massive thing too. I think that was when it was like, okay, this is like happening. And then it was, I guess just preserving what we have from deals to your app and everything else. And that was the next question or the next worry, because we were like, obviously we want to make sure that you are still like earning and everything else because it's important. And we support you through that. But yeah, that's kind of like was my thought process.
Every brand, everybody involved in the ecosystem was nothing but supportive. Gymshark, they made a commitment again to somebody else. They didn't know when that Leana was going to be modest, but from the very first moment, they were like, as long as she's herself, we're riding with her. It was never, even at that point, it wasn't like, oh, let's create a modesty collection. That wasn't the first thought. It was just Sarge, she's good, like Leana's family. It was never a thought. Greg Bloom, same, like Leana's family, whatever. Everyone just wanted her to be happy. So it was never a thing. All of the other things came after Leana was like, oh, I don't know what to wear. That is like a separate thing. But at that point, all good. And the app, you reshop everything in the app eventually.
Yep.
And yeah, alhamdulillah, here we are.
I guess how did that, obviously the Gymshark thing is massive. For context, for anybody watching, obviously Leana's launched her own, I guess, modesty collection with Gymshark, which is launched already globally. I believe, in 2 days you open the shop here in Dubai. I think you can buy it here as well. I've seen it on the website and stuff already. But yeah, how did that come about?
It started with me not having clothes to wear. I was always shopping in the men's section, and I couldn't take it anymore. I kept communicating to them that I need more clothes. And I was thinking to myself, like, if I'm going through this, I know so many other women are going through the same thing. And I was constantly, honestly, just telling Saad, I would be like, I need new clothes now. Like, I would always come to Saad about it. And I was just very upset. I think I was mad at the world at that point.
But I think that whole period there was a period you spent angry.
Yeah.
You were angry, but you were angry for reasons of like, you didn't feel like you'd become this, not new, you gravitated towards your faith, right? Like rightly so, as you wanted to, but then you weren't spoken to by, there was no clothes for you to wear. That, what I mean? The representation wasn't there.
The truth is, if you do become very religious, you are like a bit
you alienate yourself
in society, right?
In a way.
You're the weird one, generally speaking. If someone decides to be religious in any faith, generally you're like, it's not seen as normal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I can see how then, what do I wear? No one's really accounting for this. Becomes a problem.
But people were doing it, but they were like, it was so surface level. It was like, here's 2 items, we're modest.
Yeah.
Right? So it was then you were like, okay, let's speak to Gymshark. And because that wasn't the first thought. The first thought was, she's now modest and that's it. We acclimate and this is how we live. Right? But then it was like, let's take this to Gymshark.
So I guess you've spoken with Ben and you're like, I want to do this, I want to make clothes, etc. Because I guess what's quite interesting, I guess, for anyone that goes and looks at the collection, it's not necessarily just like gym clothes then. It actually is like even casual stuff, right? It's actually quite well put together.
Yeah.
So and it's quite a lot of items as well. I don't know how many exactly.
It's a big collection.
Yeah.
It seems like there's like 10, 20 products or something. That is quite impressive, right? Because it's not even, because you could easily do like, what you would think would be modest is they're going to come up with a hijab and like a couple of training items.
Yep.
But by the looks of it now, obviously it's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's stuff that's like cool as well. What I mean, because you think it wouldn't be cool once again because it's modest. They just have to tick a box. But it's not that, I guess, and that's the cool thing about it. And I guess the reception has been good as well for that reason.
So good.
But obviously, so how does that come together? You go and sit with them and say, I want these items. This is what I wear.
I think a lot of it was looking at the market and seeing what was out there, and there was nothing cool. Everything that I would see, I wouldn't train in, even if it was like modest brands. I just didn't personally like, unless it was just a top with more length. But even then, it just didn't feel like I like to put on a fit and feel good, and I wanted to do that in the gym, and I wanted other women to feel the same. So I was inspired by street style and wanted to bring that to the gym, and also like thought about how I would layer like the men's clothing basically, but I would layer one under long line top and then put a big baggy t-shirt over it, which was like super hot. And I was like, I want to solve the solution of like a 2-in-1 tee, but make it look cool. And yeah, I think that was really the main thing, was I want to make sure that women put this on and they feel inspired to go train. And I think the biggest thing that I noticed was a comment that I received, and she said abayas are cool and all, but wearing a Gymshark abaya is even cooler. It's kind of like you feel accepted in a way because mainstream brands are now bringing in modesty, and someone who knows Gymshark and sees you in the gym is like, oh, that's a Gymshark abaya. And then all of a sudden you feel more confident. And I'm not saying it's just linked to the brands, but obviously it
It's
improves,
accepted, right?
yeah.
Because if you're going to a small side brand to go and buy the small side, like their thing, and to wear it, you obviously are never going to be part of general, let's say, in this case, fitness community. So yeah, I guess wearing a brand, which a lot of people associate a lot of positive feelings with, obviously is great. That makes sense.
Yeah.
What's your favorite item?
Probably the flared training pant. I feel like the fabric is so good, and the 2-in-1 training top. I feel like that has solved a lot of problems for a lot of women.
Yeah, I've seen it. Looks cool. My wife was going to buy some stuff. She was looking at it. Because even she was like, oh, I didn't realize you've done like normal stuff. Because everyone just thinks it would be, I guess because it's combined with modesty, but still also, I guess, normal that anyone could wear this stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be for that one purpose.
Yeah.
How long has it taken, this whole thing?
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
Wow.
We started in April 2023. April, May 2023. You flew to Birmingham when we started there. The journey has been crazy, but we stuck together. But yeah, it's been crazy. But Leana's been involved at every single stage, so it takes longer. As you know, approvals back and forth.
Yeah.
Testing, material wasn't right, send it back, go again. We've gone through so many things, but at not one point was Leana from our team, Gymshark, anyone like rushing to do this. It was all about like getting her vision right. And that's a credit to Gymshark as well, honestly. Like they rode this out with her. And that's why the collection has come out this way, because it is actually what she wanted. It is her vision. It's what she had drawn. She was drawing, like sending in stuff. It was such a real creative process. And that's why the collection
Did they have to like hire people in and stuff, or did they already have like the team? Because obviously it's a little bit different, right? Like the type of clothing you're making.
We were going to do that because they were open to doing that. Remember we were going to do that. And we actually met people. Remember we were talking to different people.
Yeah.
But then when Leana met with, I think it was Rosh and a few of their team. And then also, I remember you said to me like, Leana was like, we were meeting people, but then you, in a true Leana thing, she was like, I can do this myself. Like she had the vision. She was like, I can draw these. I know what I want. I just need to work with good people that can make it come to life. And then boom, you know what I'm saying? And that's exactly, and then we met Rosh and everyone else and they got her and they cared. So I think you guys just worked together really, really well.
Yeah.
Right?
What's next for it after this launch?
Definitely more modesty coming to just Gymshark in general in line. That's something that I really wanted to make sure of. Is it's just not only my collection and then all of a sudden you see no modesty coming out, but Gymshark is really taking into consideration of making sure that almost every single drop has at least a modest piece included, which is something that is like, it's game changing because no brands are actually doing that and thinking about modest women. And they've done so many like focus groups around modesty and still are doing it. And even like bringing it to social media, like it's so hard for brands to really post women that wear the hijab, right? You might get so much feedback, like negative feedback, and they still continue to do it. And it just has shown that they're actually getting behind it rather than just, ticking off a box.
I guess then they've done this expansion into like the UAE, which obviously would help with this. And I guess this move, because I guess from a strategic point of view, it must be, because they're investing in this and doing it, it makes sense to expand to this side of the world. Yeah. From what it seems like. Because even here, there are some like local biz brands that are doing stuff, but it is still not a thing. So there is opportunity. I can see why they're like investing in it.
But I think though, a lot of this as well is that, it isn't like, of course, Dubai and these cultures makes perfect sense, but there's like, it's in Selfridges, and there's so many non-Muslims like buying it and love it. And I think that's like part of this as well. That's what's been so amazing. We did the pop-up in New York where we launched it, where people got to have it. That's the first place people saw it. Half of the line was not Muslim, and they're going in there, they're trying on abayas, they're trying on stuff because it's just, you're not necessarily looking at it as modest per se. It's just Leana's collection. And how many girls love to just throw something on without any judgment or whatever? Like so many. And that's how we're breaking barriers. Like we're breaking cultural barriers. We're breaking what people think, synonymous with modesty and they just associate it with Islam immediately. Of course, it's derived from Islam, but fundamentally, the growth path is to make it much
Could
bigger.
just be a way you dress.
Exactly.
Could be a style.
More
right?
coverage, more comfort, more confidence.
Yeah.
You know, driven by Leana. And that is the plan. That is ultimately the plan.
I guess now that you've gone through this journey as well, I guess what have you learned like about yourself, just being like, I guess now a full-scale entrepreneur from the early days of quick growth, posting the content, you know, it's working to like where you are now. You had to launch a global collection, work on it for 2 years. It's like, it's real stuff.
I think it's been challenging. I guess the main thing for me is just focusing on like living the life. I think when it comes to like being a creative, being almost I guess a leader in many ways. Your community like looks up to you to be there for them. I think living the life and practicing what you preach is definitely something that I've learned. Knowing that other people are better at things than yourself and trusting what they have to say. I think trust is a big thing. And showing up every day and not giving into how you feel. I think I spent a year, probably a year and a half, like always relying on how I felt to do things. And I guess I could say a little bit of like a victim mindset whenever I put on the hijab, because I gained that success so quick. I had an ego that I then was going to get success still, if that makes sense, even like covering up. But I think I've learned that I have so much that I have to work on myself internally. And that shows through the people that I work with, how I show up, making sure I stick to my word. It was so many times where there was points where I was like, I wasn't even sure I'm like sticking to my word. I would tell Saad sometimes like, I don't know if I can tell you I'm going to do this because I don't know if I'm going to. But I think like having the awareness now to know that I'm not that person anymore. And yeah, growing out of that, I think that just the main thing is focusing on myself first and making sure I'm living the life, and then everything else will
So
come.
if you were to turn to, I guess, yourself a few years ago, another person that's not sure of themselves, you know, struggling to really figure out, like navigate through the thing that they're going through, like what would you say to them?
I think the first thing is that comes to my mind is comparison. I think a lot of us compare our lives and feel like we need to be doing more when we should just focus on like doing something that you're passionate about. I guess a lot of people are lost, so they don't know what they want to do. But I think if you shut out all the noise from the world, stop overly looking at social media, I think that's why a lot of people are confused of what to do in life, is because they keep comparing themselves. I think I was doing that as well, feeling like I needed to be doing something else, or there was even a point where I thought maybe I shouldn't even post fitness content anymore.
I guess, how has faith helped you with that, right? Because obviously that naturally give you a sense of something else is not as important when you have strong faith. And you see that with almost any successful person, generally they will have strong faith, from sports to anything else. How's that impacted just this thing that we're talking about of like how you feel?
I think it's created like an extreme amount of discipline, because like for example, the 5 daily prayers, right? Like showing up at that time, it teaches you like being on time for things.
Right.
And to trust in the plan that God has for you. And I think being patient, I think that's a big thing that I've learned, is to be patient and make sure that I'm doing things that are pleasing to the sake of God, making sure that I'm treating other people well and focusing on my craft and what I need to do. And yeah, I think it's just helped me trust in my journey and know that I'm on the right path, I guess you could say, in many ways.
What do you think, I guess, Leana's plan, let's say 3 to 5 years, what do you see?
I can't say it all.
I was like, I need to hear this.
I can't say it all, but we talk about this every day because we're always thinking about the future, right? That's why that's what we do. We're always thinking ahead, right? It's about what's next. But I think certainly things that I can say, podcast for sure. We want to get a podcast out there. I think continue to build Leana's personal brand. I feel like people meeting her being really very global and not living just through the digital landscape. So people meeting her in person, traveling the world, meeting her audience, community, IRL, essentially, just doing more of that. Growing our businesses. Of course, we want to grow the app, Uplift You. We want to grow that. We want to prioritize that as well. Modesty, make it bigger. Make sure, you know, the representation isn't stopping now and it continues to grow. So I think what's amazing is that we planted so many good seeds. Like, this has been a really tough few years because we've fought for things that are very real.
Yeah.
It's not been surface level. It's not, Liana's never been like, how much money can I make? Can I get paid? There's never ever been a conversation. You know, it's always about what are we doing? How are we changing the world? How are we impacting people? How big can this become? That.
When's the book coming?
Yeah, book should be there as well. I guess all forms of content, so publishing, sound,
Because
podcast.
the truth is, I think that would do really well because of like the brand is being built up. Oh, because book takes time. It's like it'll be like an 18-month process as a whole. So yeah, but you're right though. Every type of way to connect to people.
Every form, yeah. But I think what I always say to Liana is, because Liana is very much like, let's do it now. I think I try to ground it a bit more. I think that's a good balance that we have of like, I think timing is everything. We could easily go and do a lot of things at once. I'm actually really proud of how we function and, you know, look at how the Modesty launch has gone. You know, thank God it's been amazing and it's been given the right attention. It's taken a long time. No one's rushed it. It's quality. She's proud of it. We can put our name behind it. But Leana is a brand name. Leana Deeb is a brand name, right? So ultimately, we can't take risks with that. We can't take chances with that. So whatever we do, it's got to be done properly and executed properly. So we just take our time and make sure we're doing the right thing. But it's only up from here. She's 23 years old. It's insane.
I saw you 23.
Yeah, she's 23 years old. Like, it's so much opportunity ahead of her but we don't get caught up in that. It's just about doing good work, staying consistent, staying focused, and things are coming, things are happening.
Okay, thanks a lot for sitting down with me and Sai today.
Thank you.